Okay, the project for today, I'm building a rolling cart for my drill press. Got a new drill press recently, and I want to have a place where I can store all of my bits, Fastener bits, drill bits, different types of taps and all that kind of stuff. So basically building a cart that can put all that stuff in, have my drill press on the top. Looked at a couple different things online, found a design that I like, and started basically mocking everything up. So I've done sort of a dry fit right now. So I'm going to take this whole thing apart and build it, put it all back together, do all the finishing and the refining. Right now, sort of proof of concept is working so far, so we'll see how it works when we actually get it together and get the whole thing assembled. So here we go. This is the glue that I usually use. It's a PL glue. So the main process that I use when building speakers and cabinets and that sort of thing is to clamp everything together in the beginning and then drill pilot holes for everything once I know that all of the boards are really accurately lined up, and then put drywall screws in there. Then when I pull everything apart, when I put it back together with glue, those holes where the screws were act as sort of registration marks and kind of make everything draw back into that accuracy that I was initially had when I have everything nicely clamped together. So once you take it apart and put it back together, everything wants to go back to where it was because of where the screw holes are and how it was put together. Okay, so now it is about an hour and a half later. I left this to set up a little bit, clamped everything so that it's nice snugly in place, and now I can take the clamps off and scrape off the glue. What you want to do with this PL glue is an hour, hour and a half before it really gets too hard, but while it's not liquid anymore, you want to scrape off the extra beads. One of the things that I've learned is if you, when you first have wet glue, go through and try to remove that glue before it sort of firms up a little bit, you're going to end up sort of smearing that all over the wood, and then it gets into the wood and it's sort of proud of the surface and makes it a little bit hard to actually get it off. So let it set for hour, hour and a half, and then you can just nicely slice that bead off. So we'll clean that up and then we can get back to putting together the rest of this little contraption. All right, this is your moment of ASMR, taking all this glue off right here. So while I was dry fitting everything, I ran a dado into the back wall and the side walls for that shelf there on the top to slide into. That worked out pretty nice. Also did one down there in the floor for the wall that's supporting the shelf. So getting all this glue out of here, it's all of these rails, the slide rails, were already installed in here previously as I was kind of getting everything together, so everything falls nicely back into the holes that I had made earlier. Had I thought about the fact that I was going to be screwing these drawer slides into this shelf surface, I would have used a thicker piece of wood because those screws didn't have a whole lot to bite into. But overall, this process worked pretty well, putting everything back together after having done the whole dry fit and such. In all, I used about 14 of these drawer slides. I haven't done a whole lot of drawers before, so this part of the whole point of this project here was to build something that has a bunch of drawers in it. Initially, these top drawers were a little bit too close to each other, so I had to put them on the table saw and cut them right back down a little bit. For the drawers, I'm using 1/2-inch plywood, cutting down the strips, and then putting a 1/4-inch rabbet joint into the corners. Then I can put everything together using this blue tape to sort of mock everything up. It's nice because it sort of stays where you want it to without having to actually put it together too permanently. I can fit the drawer into the space and then pull it out and make slight adjustments. Overall, it works pretty well and is pretty efficient. Up next, I am making some depth adjustments on the table saw, and then I'm going to begin cutting the dados that go through all of the drawer pieces. It's one of those situations where you want to make sure everything is accurate and then do all your drawers at once. So once I had those in there, then I was able to actually put together the drawers, and here I was seeing whether or not my measurements for the 1/4-inch plywood that I use as the base of the drawer, whether the size that was right. So I had to trim up some of those to make them a little bit more properly fitted. For these I'm not using PL glue, just using regular wood glue. to keep these together, and then the blue tape does nicely to keep them, in place. And then I've got this little brad nailer over there as well that I'll use to actually get everything nicely together. And that basically lets the glue dry, and the glue is really doing the most of the work in the long run. Time to finish these top drawers here. Was trying a different design that I saw on another YouTuber's channel, where he was making sort of some open shelves here for setting in removable little trays and such. So I'll link that video in the description. I'm using my composite nailer for the first time as I'm putting these drawers together here. The nice thing about that is when you go back and you route the edges, you know that you're not going to hit nails. I initially got that for my CNC machine, so that I don't break bits when I'm securing things to the bed. But I'm actually finding that it's quite useful with other kinds of woodworking, because you don't have to worry if you're finishing something later of hitting a nail and screwing up your bit. So getting all of these drawers finally installed, making sure everything is fitting properly. Looks like it's working pretty well. Also putting some wheels on the bottom. These wheels are the ones I use on pretty much everything. I think they're 5-inch wheels. So with the wheels on, it's time to get this thing off the bench and finally get a feel for how the drawers work and see how everything looks. Now for the drawer faces. This is something that I have never done before. Basically taking a single sheet of plywood and cutting it up so that all of the doors are out of the same piece and you can kind of see the grain together. So this is part of the learning process for me in terms of making drawers for the first time. Overall, this process worked pretty well. First, I fit all of these drawer faces together and made sure the lines were nice. Then I put the double stick tape onto the actual drawers themselves. That allowed me to put everything in place and have it stay stable enough so that when I later opened up the drawers and screwed the actual drawers to the drawer faces, they were going to stay in the same place and not move around. So now the cart is up on its wheels, and I can open these drawers and start attaching the faces to the drawers themselves. I noticed as I was doing so, opening these drawers for the first time, that middle drawer on the left-hand side, the supports that were underneath actually hit the top of the drawer below. I had not taken into account that I had built that drawer differently because I wanted it to be wider and shallower. So here I am trying to figure out what exactly the problem is. Once I got the face for that bottom left drawer cut down, then I just had to figure out what to do with the two pieces that were left. After thinking about it a little bit, I realized, why don't I just put a strip of walnut in there? So that's what I did. And then I got all of the edges routed up and a little strip dried in that face. So I was able to put those on, and it seemed like it worked out pretty well. Once that was done, I was able to start marking the lines for the drawer handles. And getting those installed, basically just went to the hardware store and found some knobs that I liked, had a little bit of a nice weight to them. So slowly getting those put in all these. This cart might have a little bit more space than I need for only my drill bits, but I think what I'm going to do is have my taps and dies in here. And also, since I've got the CNC machine, that'll give me a nice space for putting all my different bits and such that I need there. So overall, this process worked out pretty well. Again, this is the first time I'd really done a bunch of drawers on a cabinet type of thing, and learned a lot from the process just in terms of how to put everything together and lining up the face and getting everything to kind of look cohesive. So once all the drawers were in place, then I'm using this PL glue again, and I've got some Formica that I'm using to attach to the top of the surface of the drill press. I decided to use Formica because I know that in some cases I'll be dripping oil and stuff if I'm cutting anything with metal. And with the Formica in place, it's time to actually get this drill set on here for the first time and finish this cart. I've got a little bit of finishing to do, but basically this is what I was able to get done over the course of a single weekend, making this cart for my drill press. All right, and here is the finished product. I rounded over the edges on each of the drawer faces and then finished off that front panel with Total Boats Halcyon. And I put drawer liners in each of the drawers, and these here in the top drawers still need to be glued down.
But the other thing I'll need to do, of course, is make all of the different trays and such in which my bits will be sitting, but I'll use my CNC to be working on those things. So here's the finished product on this rolling cart I built for my drill, built in one weekend.